Hello everyone, Resonance here, and in this video I'll be going over the various features of the very unique custom AI that I made for Age of Empires 2 HD Edition. Many of you already probably know this, but I've been spending much of my free time over the last few years developing a custom AI that I designed to provide the most fun experience possible. Instead of focusing on creating the most human-like or advanced AI out there, I decided that I wanted to create one that was packed full of personality, user-friendly customization, replayability, and that had the ability to automatically adjust the difficulty in-game to ensure that every type of player always gets a good quality match. There is still quite a bit of room for improvement, of course, although I am pretty satisfied with the current version. If you are interested in trying it, then I have links to everything that you need in the video description below. Just go to the Steam Workshop page and click the subscribe button and it'll automatically install for you. You guys have been asking me for a long time now to show some gameplay of my AI, but before I did that, I wanted to really polish some of the core features to at least the level that they are right now. I've also heard that some of you might be struggling with beating my AI, and hopefully through watching my gameplay and with some careful practice, you should be able to defeat it. While I am explaining the core features and the history behind the making of my AI, I will put on some gameplay in the background of me doing a 1v1 against ResonanceBot on the hardest difficulty. It played with the usual standard 1v1 Arabia settings that you saw a moment ago, although some people do prefer 200 population instead, and my AI can play that too. I did not use any pauses, lure any villagers with my scout, tower rush, wall its resources, or abuse any limitations of AIs that would have given me an unfair advantage. I will explain a little later on in the videos the steps that I took to make this 1v1 look easier than it often is. You might have noticed already that the gameplay is actually from version 5a, and that this particular video is actually about version 5.1b. And that is because I have been so busy with midterms exams recently that I really haven't had the time to sit down and record another match. While I can code during lectures and when I'm at the allergy clinic, I unfortunately can't play Aoe2 at either of those. So anyway, the gameplay is from the previous version 5a, but I assure you that almost all of the changes in version 5.1b are mostly for maps with water and for single-player team games. The strategies that you see here will work exactly the same against the current version. If there is sufficient demand for it, I might do future videos on version 5.1b that show off other valuable strategies, so let me know if you are interested in, seeing me do more. I'll keep it as side content, of course, and not a replacement for the usual videos that I do. It is also important to note that there are many ways to beat my AI in hardest, and that most standard strategies that are executed extremely well should also work fine. Like with any non-user patch AI, there are always issues that you can exploit. But I designed ResonanceBot so that a skilled player can win without doing things such as, luring their villagers with your scout. For players who are relatively new to the game, the most important thing that you can do to improve your gameplay is to keep a close eye on your town center at all times, and make sure that it is always producing villagers or researching something. The goal of every match should be to have at least half of the total max population of the game as villagers. Since this is a 300 population game, my goal is to have around 150 villagers by the end of the match. Another fun trick against AIs in general is to build an early castle if you are struggling. You certainly don't need to build one, but it certainly helps when you're getting comfortable. Some of the more advanced early game tricks that I use to gain an edge here are the way I laid out my base. I positioned my buildings so that they protected my lumber camps and my gold mines from enemy attacks by forming a makeshift wall off, which you guys will see in a moment. Tried to create a choke point that forced enemy units into my town center. These tricks work just as well against my AI as they do against human players. Careful building placement and creating artificial choke points is a great way to protect yourself against early attacks. I will explain almost all of the features of version 5.1b in a moment, but before I do, I think it is important that I first explain to you all why I made the AI in the first place. I think that this is a story that may resonate with many of you. When I was a kid, I used to play Age of Empires 2 with my friends all the time. In fact, I have had this game since I was 7 years old, and it was one of the first games that I ever played. Naturally, I tried to share the wonder of Age of Empires 2 with everyone that I knew. And yet this game was met with mixed results from my peers. My friends and I ran into the age-old problem of not being able to balance the teams. The skill level differences between me and my friends, and, even among just my friends, was massive. There was simply no way to set up the teams and make it fair for everyone. And plus, we all wanted to play together on the same team anyway. We basically had two options. Either play against the old Conqueror's AI, or play against other real people over the internet. Unfortunately, neither solution turned out to be ideal. For starters, the Conqueror's AI has had, a nearly endless list of iconic flaws that really hamper the multiplayer experience. The Conqueror's AI had plenty of annoying habits, such as only targeting the enemy player with the highest score, which made it no fun for anyone in multiplayer. I think the most substantial problem with the Conqueror's AI, though, is that the difficulty levels are just not carefully balanced. The jump from standard difficulty to the moderate difficulty is ridiculously huge, and so it was always a challenge to pick the right difficulty for me and my friends to play against. Simply put, 5 difficulty levels was just not enough for every type of player to have a good game. So with the Conqueror's AI not being a viable option for a fun multiplayer experience, that basically left me and my friends with the only option of teaming up against random players online. We all wanted to be in the same team with each other, and, well, that unfortunately had some unforeseen side effects. If you've ever played Age of Empires 2 online, then you're probably aware of how nobody wants to join a lobby filled with a stack of 4 players on the same team. Most people would probably join the lobby and assume that the teams were somehow stacked in our favor. The most common line of thought was that my friends must all be Smurfs. If you didn't know, Smurfs are a term used to describe alternate accounts that players usually use to pretend to be a lower rating than they actually are. Smurfs are everywhere in Age of Empires 2. They're also on, the HD Edition, Voobly, Game Ranger, they're everywhere. The good news is, though, is that Voobly is also currently taking steps to try and keep the Smurfs out of the new player games, which I think is good. So I don't think it's too unreasonable to assume that my friends were Smurfing. I play this game a lot more online than they do, so my rating has always been substantially higher. So to most people, it would seem as though my friends are just pretending to be bad so I can get free wins to boost my rating. The sad thing, though, is that some people actually do this, and that it can be, extremely difficult to know the difference. The natural response to seeing an 1887 rated guy in a bunch of 1500s to 1600s is to usually leave the lobby and assume the worst. And even if people didn't think we were smurfing, balancing the teams would still be a nightmare. After waiting an incredibly long time for people to actually join the lobby, the quality of matches that we had was rather poor. Our online matches were often very one-sided because my friends and I were such drastically different skill levels. If the enemy team was, well, all closer to the skill level of my friends, I would usually destroy them, very quickly. But if the enemy team was closer to my skill level, then the enemy team would usually demolish my friends in a heartbeat. It was also really hard to tell in general which way the teams were favored beforehand, since the enemy team could have Smurfs on it. And everyone has their rating for different reasons, some people really only play specific maps. So my friends and I really either had to play against the boring Conqueror's AI, or waste time waiting in a lobby only to have a one-sided game. I mean, that's just the nature of playing with a group of many different types of players. It can be pretty hard to get a good game. The new computer player in Aoe2 HD also did not really solve any of the issues that I had when it came to balancing teams. While it's basically as smart as it gets for a non-user patch AI, and is very impressive at that, it still only has 5 difficulty levels. However, I do not give up easily. I am a firm believer that Age of Empires 2 is one of the best damn games ever made, period. And that is why I invest so much time into my YouTube channel, Twitch stream, and my custom AI. Because I want to spread the word that Age of Empires 2 kicks ass. If you have a group of friends that are all similar skill levels to you and each other, then getting a good game isn't too hard. However, if you're like me, and many of your friends are new to the game, then things get tricky. I believe that Age of Empires 2 has always lacked a casual way for a group of buddies to get together and have a good game. We need a way for the casual player base to have fun in multiplayer too. So that's where my custom AI comes in. I've been working on my custom AI, ResonanceBot, for nearly 4 years now. Ever since I was a little kid, I had always dreamed of giving my friends a better Age of Empires 2 experience. And now I want to share that better experience with you guys. I would spend countless hours looking at the game's code in Notepad just to try and see if there was a way I could make things better. I think a lot of my motivation comes from my need to entertain others. I live to make other people smile, and to me, Age of Empires 2 has always been one of the things that made me smile the most, so I wanted to give that gift to as many people as possible. Eventually, I got a decent grasp on how to make my own AI, so I got to work with the very first version. A lot of the crude code in my AI results from a very, very long development phase. The first few versions were made with literally no guidance or outside references. Like I said, basically as a kid, I was just, going through the data files trying to see if I could mod the game, and I realized that you could open up the data files in Notepad, and from there, eventually, from reading it enough, I learned how to get started on my own. I would just keep typing in random stuff until something eventually didn't give me an error code, and that's how we got version 1A. Oof, that was a long time ago. So yeah, since then I have worked tirelessly on improving it. Obviously now with the help of numerous guides and countless sources of feedback. I've got help, guys. Don't worry. That's why it's turned out so nicely, I think. So now that you know more about the history behind ResonanceBot, let's talk a little bit about its features. For starters, my AI can play all of the civilizations, including the ones exclusive to the Forgotten expansion pack to Aoe2 HD Edition. It can also play almost every standard random map and most custom maps as well. Like most AIs, though, especially since Age of Empires 2 HD does not have the full user patch, ResonanceBot cannot play the map of Migration very well, nor can it play maps such as Michi and Forest Nothing. Maybe someday. Like right now, I developed ResonanceBot for Age of Empires 2 HD Edition because that's where most of the casual player base is and where a lot of the newer players hang out. So that's what originally what I designed ResonanceBot for. Although skilled players obviously can get a good experience and fun experience out of it too. Right now, it only works with Aoe2 HD Edition because that's what I originally developed it for, and cross compatibility between Aoe2 HD and the original Aoe2 is dodgy at best. So. Someday I would like to get it compatible with the original, Age of Empires 2 with user patch, but that could take a while as it's require me to rewrite a lot of stuff. So yeah, can't play Migration very well, can't play Michi or Forest Nothing, but maybe someday. So at the moment, ResonanceBot is able to play the random map game mode with standard settings, and this means standard resources, standard starting age, and preferably 200 or more max population. Set it below 200, it's able to play those, but it's not optimized at all for anything below 200 population, so definitely should play with 200 or above. And plus, part of the point of ResonanceBot is to help get you comfortable with online play, so, you should probably be playing with standard settings anyway and 200 or more max population so that you get used to things. I think an interesting thing to note is that ResonanceBot can also now play Regicide as of version 5.1b. But remember, it can't play any other game modes besides random map and Regicide. Part of it, again, is, lack of user patch. Another thing is that it seems to be in Aoe2 HD, AIs don't tend to recognize some game modes properly, so... it does random map and Regicide, nothing else. You can try it on other game modes, but it will not work. So anyway, in addition, my AI has a very wide variety of randomized strategies at its disposal to keep the match fresh and interesting every time. It will also periodically offer helpful advice to struggling players and even has a very long list of randomly generated trash talk that it might use against you. I believe that a little bit of personality adds a lot to the quality of the match, so I made sure to add many different lines of dialogue. Of course, I also believe that customization is extremely important too, so you can definitely turn off the AI's ability to chat, and it tells you how to do that in the introduction. Now, remember that, when you're chatting with the AI, you need to click the trumpet-shaped icon in the top right. That's the chat menu. You need to click that button. It'll open up this chat menu, and then you need to click the Everyone button. You cannot use chat shortcuts, such as, putting the asterisk before your message to make it go to all players. No, you have to use the trumpet-shaped icon in the top right, call it the chat menu, click on that, and then click the Everyone button to make sure that your messages are going to the right AI. That's how it works. So you can, use the special commands that I will, discuss a little bit later on. You can find a list of those in the fact file on the Steam Workshop page, but you gotta use the chat menu. And, in addition to being able to toggle off the AI's ability to chat, you can also toggle on and off a laundry list of other features. Again, entire list of custom commands for the AI inside the FAQ file on the Steam Workshop page. Like with everything else you need, you can find a link to that in the video description below. Anyway, remember the key problem that I just talked about a few minutes ago? It all boils down to the problem of being unable to balance the teams, especially when playing with a group of people with varying skill levels. And so, the most important feature of my AI is its unique ability to automatically adjust the difficulty for you in-game. What? That's right. While you're playing with or against my AI, my AI will also play a bit slower or faster to try and match your individual playing speed. Pretty crazy, right? My AI can also dynamically adjust the difficulty for you in team games as well, by comparing its own speed to the average speed of the opposing team. How exactly does it do this? Is it magic? Not quite. It's pretty complicated, but essentially my AI mostly looks at things like each player's villager count and their total military population. It also looks at other things, but I'm just trying to keep things simple. A telltale sign of a newer player is usually that their town center is frequently idle and not producing villagers, so my owl will keep a close eye on how often the enemy town center is idle and adjust its own play speed accordingly. In general, it will try to match the villager count of the enemy. But on the hard and hardest difficulties, it will slightly increase or decrease the amount of free resources that it gets depending on if it is winning or losing. What that means is that, well, every player, no matter how good or how bad you are, should be able to have a high-quality match of Age of Empires 2 by playing against my custom AI. Now, of course, this function is fine-tuned for each difficulty level, so you won't see the hardest difficulty showing nearly as much mercy as easiest would. And at the same time, easiest won't be able to scale up to the same level of a faster player either. So you still actually have to pick the right difficulty level for you and your teammates. I have detailed information on all the difficulty levels on the Steam Workshop page for my custom AI, so check that out in the video description below and you should be able to find a link for that. There's even more information in the fact file, and there's a link to download that in the Steam Workshop page as well. So basically, if you're playing with random players, then I would usually look at the average rating of everyone in the lobby and pick the appropriate difficulty level based on that. For example, if everybody in your lobby is on average somewhere between 1450 to 1600 rating on Aoe2 HD, then I recommend trying the standard difficulty. Every difficulty level has been fine-tuned so that all types of players and teams can have a good game. Now, if your friends are, if you guys are completely unrated, standard is a good place to start. Maybe easiest if you're new to the game. Standard if you're unrated, but you've definitely been playing it in single player. So anyway, back to the gameplay. I think the real question is, why did I choose to go for a fast castle age and not just rush him earlier? Part of the reason is that my map generation spawned my main gold mine in an easily defensible position at the back of my base. I also had 2 forests near the back as well. I looked at the way the natural terrain generated and I figured that it would be easy enough to wall off with my buildings. The other part is honestly just a playstyle preference. If you watch my videos, you know how much I love my farming simulator, man. And since the Britons get cheap town centers, I wanted to take full advantage of that. An archer rush, drush, or any other type of early aggression from me would have worked just as well. But I wanted to show you guys a better example of my preferred playstyle when I am not distracted on stream. A common misconception is that because ResonanceBot cheats on hard and hardest to allow it to still be a challenge for skilled players, this means that raiding its economy is worthless and rushing can't work either. That is not true at all. Trust me, I actually designed it. So I've balanced it extremely carefully so that multiple different styles of play all work if you do it right. You can definitely outboom or rush ResonanceBot with some practice. In fact, you will notice me aggressively raiding the AI in this match. While it is not required to win, it sure helps since my constant crossbowman raiding really weakened ResonanceBot's economy, and it also kept his army occupied with defending and therefore not pressuring me. By putting the pressure on, I was able to safely build up my own economy while preventing ResonanceBot from building up his own. Since I went for a fast castle age, I would have been pretty vulnerable to attacks unless I put the pressure on immediately. So I made sure to do just that. I think crossbowmen is always a safe choice, since if you micro them carefully, you will be able to make good trades with your opponent's units. And, if the shoe is on the other foot and my AI is pressuring you, then mangonels are always a lifesaver. And like I mentioned earlier, a defensive castle can protect you as well. Now, mouse crossbowmen is not really always the answer. It's just one thing that works. You can, obviously go knights and whatnot. You can try and outboom it. Just make sure that you do it well. Crossbowmen can be kind of easily dealt with by mangonels, so you probably need your own defensive mangonels anyway. And you'll see pretty soon that I do throw those in. Very, very important that you go do that. So in terms of other features, my AI does indeed do other things to make sure that you get a quality game. For one, it will periodically attack different players in team games so that everyone gets to feel the love, and nobody feels unfairly targeted or left out of the action. This is not always true, but it's true 95% of the time. Why? Because here's how the AI picks its targets. The AI selects the player to attack by first checking to see if there are any nearby threats. Then it checks if its teammates need help. So basically the AI teammates will ask for help and then they'll try and take care of that threat. Next, it checks to see if a human teammate has told it to target a specific enemy player. And lastly, it generates a random number to select an enemy to attack if none of the things before are met. So while the randomized targeting is certainly not the most efficient way for an AI to play if it wants to win, my design philosophy is that fun comes first, and randomized targeting is super fun in my mind. I'm not trying to win any tournaments here with my AI, I gotta be real clear here. But rather, I want to give players a very fun match, and I think the game becomes infinitely more entertaining when nobody feels safe. Alright, moving on. ResonanceBot also makes a phenomenal teammate since you can suggest players for it to attack. I have more details on that in the fact file on the Steam Workshop page for the AI, but basically by typing in specific numbers to the AI, again by using the chat menu and not pressing the enter key. Don't do it, it's a trap, it doesn't work. It will attempt to attack the player that you chose. It will also respond to a wide variety of other commands, including the standard ones like 3, which is food please, and 31, which is attack an enemy now. The thing is, though, is if you tell my AI to attack somebody, remember how I told you the attack logic works a moment ago, if there's a nearby threat, for example, or one of his teammates needs help, including yourself, you'll prioritize that a little bit more than what you told him to do that, but he'll do it. So anyway, my AI has a billion other features that I won't cover here. Seriously, guys. Tried to really emphasize that user-friendly customization thing. But you can always read more about it on the Steam Workshop page and by reading the changelogs, which are, like, long enough to be an essay in themselves. I spent a lot of time and a lot of work into this AI, guys, so... Hey, if you got a quick second and you're willing to head on over to that Steam Workshop page and give me a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. 4 years of work, But I'm proud, and I've been having a lot of fun playing this AI with you guys. You might catch me hanging around hosting lobbies of this or joining random people who are hosting lobbies of this, because it's just a really fun way to get a balanced game that otherwise can be pretty difficult to get. So anyway, speaking of changelogs, I might as well go over a few of the major changes in version 5.1b while I'm here. Find the full changelog, in the Steam Workshop page, where you can find everything else that you need. So anyway, yeah, a couple of major changes is I made the hard and hardest difficulties play a little slower in single-player team games than they did before. Those are the only two difficulties that cheat, by the way. And again, it's been very carefully tweaked and balanced. If you feel like you can't beat it, there's no other way for me to say it besides you're doing something wrong. And then with enough practice, you should be able to do it. I believe that, while the cheating can feel unfair, I wanted to make it as fair as possible. And trust me, it is fair. You don't need to do anything silly to actually beat it on hard and hardest. You just play standard and you do well, and you'll be able to do it. The cheating is there because, well, non-user patch AIs are pretty limited with what they can do, and a lot of the, exploits that you see with my AI and with the computer player in Aoe2 HD are just due to limitations with the game engine. So cheating allows it to not only really balance the difficulty better, but also allows it to scale to the level of more skilled players, so that players, again, of all skilled levels can enjoy and have a good game. Basically, 5A was where I revamped all the build orders for closed maps, like Black Forest and Arena, maps that are very easy to defend, and then version 5.1b, I did a lot of work on the water maps. And I fixed a lot of bugs, my AI no longer builds ships on Fortress. Sorry about that, guys. I kept forgetting to do that one. I don't play Fortress. I fixed that one. My AI now plays Regicide as of 5.1b, so that's pretty fun. I rewrote a lot of the introduction chats, especially to specify a couple of the custom commands and settings that you can tweak. Improve the attack and retreat logic. Now attacks in larger groups, helps its allies more consistently. I overhauled all the custom commands, which I'll explain really briefly in just a moment. I did all sorts of other minor improvements, such as the AI now avoids building lumber and mining camps near the enemy base, and it now plays Gold Rush, Golden Pit Islands, Hill Fort, Necropolis a little bit better. Hill Fort still sucks for AIs in general, though. They can't really handle that better. I also made it resign on water maps a bit sooner. Tons of bug fixes. So speaking of custom commands, so we got one important one that I want to bring up, which my AI lets you know in the introduction. If you're doing 5 humans versus 3 AI, so the teams are unfair in that the AI is outnumbered, you just type 40 to my AI via the chat menu, and it increases the difficulty slightly to compensate for that. So that way, you don't need 4v4, but 4v4 is obviously ideal. If you got 5 people in a lobby, you'll be fine. You just type 40 and you're good to go. I've also got taunt 42, which is an interesting one. Really, I get a lot of comments from people telling me oh, you should be able to change your AI's strategy, or I should be able to turn off his chats, or I wish he wouldn't resign so soon. And my response is read the fact file, read the fact file, read the fact file. Because we've got this, man. I've got it all. I've got everything you need, hopefully. Well, almost everything. My AI can't make you dinner yet, but maybe someday. So send taunt 42 to my AI, and then, well, you can suddenly change his strategy. This allows you to change his strategy regardless of the teams. Now, I made it so you have to send taunt 42 first, because otherwise, you might accidentally change it just by spamming taunts to people, or you meant to send that to someone else. I wanted to make it so it wasn't an accidental thing, and I also didn't want to make it so people could just like troll change the strategies regardless of the teams. I want people to know that, you know, someone toggled that on. And if you don't want people messing with the strategies and the settings, you just type 125 at the start, and then the AI will ignore all those messages. So yeah, Taunt 42 allows you to send, you know, taunts such as 32, 33, 34, and 37 to change the AI strategy. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, Taunt 32 is cease creating extra villagers, and then, you know, AI is going to rush and not boom. Taunt 33 is create extra villagers, and that will cause the AI to build up an economy, try and boom, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, 34 is, yeah, it's build a navy. So then he'll make a slightly smaller land army and build a navy. 35 is stop building a navy, so he'll stop building a navy. Well, he'll still build one, but he'll build fewer ships. And 37 is build a wonder. Self-explanatory. The thing with these commands, though, is I would really use them sparingly. My AI should, you know, basically always pick the appropriate strategy for the map. And especially when playing on water maps, I mean, for one, if you tell it to do a strategy that it just can't do, you know, having it build a navy on Arabia, it'll tell you no, but constantly, you know, toggling between strategies or having it do something really stupid will break it. So again, you know, with great power comes, with great customization comes great responsibility. We'll go with that one. So the other thing that I want to bring up is that, you know, Taunt 201, you get to toggle off the AI's ability to chat advice and its introduction to opponents. So, you know, you just type that at the start of the game, 201. You know, you wait like 15 seconds, then type 201. It won't give the introduction and all that mumbo jumbo. So, Taunt 203 also toggles off the AI's ability to resign early if the situation is bleak. But it'll always ask you for permission. And again, if you want to respond to that, you know, go to the chat menu. Don't open up the enter thing. Don't do it. Don't press enter. Go to the chat menu. So anyway, we see the match coming to a close here, and up until the end, things were very close. I was able to keep up with ResonanceBot and eventually overwhelm him because of the constant pressure I put on him and how much I focused on building up my own economy during that. You may have noticed that I built extra town centers this game and that they were all pumping out villagers the entire time. I have to say, it's pretty nice to actually see me playing a little bit better for a change. You can see the difference between on-stream and off-stream here. Obviously, if I was playing against humans, I would have been... I would not have gone immediately for the fast castle age. I probably would have made, you know, a couple feudal age archers or something like that. But, you know, similar idea here. I made sure that while I was building up my military, I was building an economy in the background. It is extremely important not to neglect your home economy while you're making military units. It's probably one of the harder parts of Aoe2. That level of multitasking takes practice, but one thing that you can do to help with learning it is to use the H hotkey to jump to a town center, and the C hotkey, or whatever yours is set to create a villager. So H and C. You will see me constantly using that combination to keep my economy growing. I also made sure to make a wide variety of units this game. One of the hardest parts of Aoe2 is definitely learning to make a balanced army composition, and I talk about this in a couple of my tutorial videos, which I always recommend that you give them a watch. You'll notice that my AI also trains a wide variety of units too. So the trick to defeating it is to make your own balanced army. An army of one type of unit will usually fail. Just too easy to counter, guys. A balanced army contains units that cover each other's weaknesses. So for example, my endgame army was composed of arbalists, skirmishers, halberdiers, and onagers. So let's talk a little bit about the individual units, right? I want to make arbalists, so I need to think about ways to protect the arbalists. Arbalists are weak to cavalry, siege units, and skirmishers. Those are just some of the weaknesses. So I created halberdiers to beat enemy cavalry, and I created onagers to defeat enemy siege units and skirmishers. That way I'm protecting my arbalists from some of their counters. Now, if my opponent's civilization was Mayans and he's creating eagle warriors, then it would have been wise for me to add in champions with my arbalists instead of halberdiers, because, you know, Mayans, they don't get cavalry, so halberdiers is a little bit weaker in that situation. The halberdiers in my army also need to be protected, and thankfully, my arbalists counter their own counters quite nicely. So, halberdiers are weak to ranged units and champions in general, and arbalists counter those. So, perfect right there. The two units complement each other very nicely. The skirmishers were more of an extra touch because they don't cost gold, and I wanted to save my gold primarily for siege weapons and arbalists. And, you know, they still deal decently well with enemy ranged units as well. So yeah, lastly, I made some trebuchets because my army needed an effective way to destroy enemy buildings. Common thing that I see new players doing is they'll make like nothing but longbowmen. They'll have like 200 longbowmen marching around the map, this huge death ball, and then there's like a castle that shows up, and they're just like, well, shit, I'm just gonna shoot at the castle for 3 hours. Don't do that, guys. That's how you lose games. Make some trebuchets. Save a life. Do it for the kids. Alright, so I would also like to take a brief moment while this match is still going on to explain my design philosophy to you guys. There are plenty of other amazing custom AIs out there, so I don't really feel the need to create one that competes with any of those. I wanted to create an AI that was different. For starters, the default computer player in Aoe2 HD is an incredibly advanced AI that is designed to accurately mimic human strategies and play as fairly as possible. But comparing the computer player or most other AIs to ResonanceBot is not really fair. I wouldn't do it, since my AI is made with different goals in mind. While ResonanceBot does utilize a wide variety of human-like strategies and is quite smart too, I did not want to restrict myself to only mimicking human opponents. The way I see it, most players see enough standard strategies in their everyday games, so I wanted to allow my AI to have some degree of creativity with what it does. I'm not saying it's going to make nothing but petards, but I wanted to, mix things up a little bit, keep things fun. It all boils down to my focus on creating the most fun AI possible, and to achieve that, I think it is important for it to sometimes surprise you. With my favorite thing, incredibly BM-forward buildings. But I'm not going to spoil everything. You gotta experience it for yourself. That's the good part. ResonanceBot is designed to give as fun and balanced games as possible, whereas most other AIs are designed to, be as efficient and human-like as possible. So if you're interested in a different style of AI than usual, then I hope you enjoy playing with ResonanceBot as much as I do. And so, let me end this video by saying that I make YouTube videos because I remember how difficult it was for me to get a quality match when I was learning the game. Part of the problem was that there were just not enough ways for me to learn concepts in an easy-to-understand way. The other problem was that my friends were all learning at different paces, and not all of us wanted to play serious matches. My projects in the Age of Empires 2 community are designed to address both of these issues. Through watching my videos and playing against my AI, hopefully you will be able to become more comfortable with the game. But more importantly, I want to make sure that everyone is able to have a great quality match. So what are you waiting for? Check the video description for a link to download ResonanceBot and click the subscribe button to install it. It's that easy. It's time to grab some friends and enjoy a good casual and, most importantly, a balanced match of Age of Empires 2. My hope is that you will all be surprised at just how much fun playing against AI opponents can be if the AI was made purely with having fun in mind. No matter how fast or how slow you play, ResonanceBot should be able to provide you with a good game every single time. Now, like I said, my goal here when I do YouTube videos in general is to help make strategy games more approachable. And that doesn't just apply to Age of Empires 2. No matter what game I'm playing, I want to try and reduce the learning curve a little bit and help you guys have a bit more fun. Because, games, especially Age of Empires 2, can be, well, incredibly tricky to learn. It's not necessarily self-explanatory. And my AI helps me accomplish part of this goal by, chatting advice, encouraging good habits. Really any standard strategy that you would do against humans should work here too. And I'm really proud with how it's turned out. I'm always going to be doing Age of Empires 2 videos. I can't say that enough. Is that just because I do videos on other games, guys, don't worry that I'm quitting Aoe2 anytime soon. It's not happening like that. I believe though that variety is the spice of life, and that there are a lot of strategy games out there that just aren't quite as self-explanatory as they ought to be. I mean, the amount of time that it took me to learn, Aoe2 and whatnot, gosh, I don't want anyone to ever have to sit through that again. And, I don't want anyone ever to have as miserable of an experience, trying to play with their friends who, some of them are just super casual, right? And just not being able to get a good game. I don't want anyone to have to deal with the crap that I had to deal with my friends. I love Age of Empires 2. This is a damn great game, and I want everyone to be able to have fun. I didn't want to make, there are plenty of other AIs out there like the Barbarian AI and the default computer to Aoe2 HD that are very, very, incredibly efficient and smart. I didn't want an AI that was designed to compete with that. There's no reason for me to make another Barbarian. So that's not the point. So I, prefer that we don't compare the two. My AI is different, and I gotta say, I'm very proud with how it's turned out. I have put an unfathomable amount of time and effort into it, and I think it's finally turned out very, very nicely. It's something that I play a lot with the viewers outside of the stream, and really it just always produces great games. I think of ResonanceBot and just coding AIs in general as sort of like an art form, and the way I structured ResonanceBot is when you play a game with it, I like to think of it as though it's telling a story, and that you, the protagonist, in the early game, especially on the later difficulties, you might fall behind. Things may be looking grim, but for the protagonist, man, he trains, and he gets stronger and stronger until you eventually make that epic comeback and you win the game. And I'm really happy with how it's turned out, guys, and I hope you really enjoy it as much as I did. I put my heart and soul into this AI. I always refer to it as my robot son. It's a fun one, I'll tell you that. There are a lot of things that I plan to add to it in the future. You know, I might switch over to the town size attack function. Would require a lot of you know, redoing the code. Because I actually originally wrote this AI before Aoe2 HD. Like, I wrote some of it before Aoe2 HD even came out. So like, adding in the HD features has been a tricky one, and now transitioning into the other user patch features is kind of tricky. I would like to make it compatible with the original Aoe2, but that could take me a really long time. And I don't know if there's really that much demand for it. I mean, I don't know. Your kind feedback is always really appreciated. I think that one thing that I value the most is I would love to hear your guys' stories. You know, share your fun stories. You know, tell me about how, you know, your matches with the AI have went, whether single player or multiplayer. Tell me about, you know, you and your friends and your experiences. Hopefully they've been good. I always love to hear the fun matches, the epic struggles. Those are always great. Those are always great. So yeah, I'll, you know, continually be releasing updates over time, although I think that version 5.1b is pretty stable. I mean, really, most of your questions hopefully should be answered in the FAQ. Let's see, anything else I should go over quickly? I'd be wondering why my AI, you know, deletes its walls in, like, Arena and Fortress eventually. I explain this in the FAQ file. It's everything you need is in the FAQ file, even the secret to life and immortality and everything. The doctors hate him. Basically, walls are pretty detrimental to AIs in general, and that's why my AI doesn't really build them. They tend to get like stuck on them as though the walls themselves are coated in glue. Part of that is just you know, game limitations, and part of that's just Aoe2 HD. Unit pathing can be quite interesting at times. Units just tend to get stuck on each other like they're coated in flypaper or maple syrup. So walls, honestly, pretty detrimental, and I'd rather my AI risk getting rushed than getting all of his units clumped up in a giant ball. That's why I don't really recommend Black Forest. I think that Arena is a fun map if you like the slower style of gameplay. My AI should be a great teammate for your single-player games, a great opponent in your multiplayer games. Should be a lot of fun. Fun for everybody. You know, trust me, you know, hardest is actually something that you shouldn't really expect to jump right into. Like, with the difficulty levels for my AI, I wanted to make sure they were all useful. And something that you would actually play. Because I pretty firmly believe the easiest, especially for the Conqueror's AI and the Aoe2 HD computer AI, are not really used. I think they're really underused. And it can be like... So, my AI doesn't have like 5 difficulty levels. It's got like a spectrum of difficulty levels. A rainbow of difficulty levels, if that helps. Oh, jeez. So anyway, you know, easiest plays a little bit faster than the regular easiest that we expect. But hopefully it should be doable for you. And that means that, you know, hardest is obviously a lot harder than the default computer player in Aoe2 HD because, you know, my AI does, you know, cheat for a little bit of extra resources. You can see me right here, by the way. Look at me. Open in the chat menu, clicking everyone. You see how I do that? I made sure that it's going to the right person. It's very important that you do this.
Yes.
And huzzah, I will respond. So, don't jump into hardest right away. Make sure you know, follow the rating requirements. I mean, preferably be like 1850 rated on Aoe2 HD if you're playing against hardest. It can be kind of tricky. It can be. And, you know, if it's too easy for you, and you're playing like uneven teams, type 40, good to go. I would not jump straight into hardest. If you're getting owned by it, it takes practice. It does. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be very hard, and it's supposed to be challenging for some of the better players that Aoe2 HD has to offer. So yeah. Not too much else I can say. The video is going to end right about here. You know, as always, I'd really love to read your comments and feedback. If you got a quick moment, feel free to leave me a thumbs up on the Steam Workshop page for this. I really appreciate it. I do. You know, like rating on the video, blah, blah, blah. If you enjoyed this video, I have plenty of other Age of Empires 2 videos on my YouTube channel, as well as videos for other games. If you like this one, you'll probably like those as well. And I, you know, do live stream regularly as well. So, I mean, gosh, everything is in the video description. I mean, like, literally everything. I mean, it's amazing. It's like a library of all of life's greatest secrets. Everything you need in the video description. Some restrictions may apply. So anyway, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. And yeah, more wars coming on the way soon, TM. I do want to say one quick thing is that, for one, Twitch's export to YouTube function, like, hates me and it's just not working quite right, which is why my uploads have been a little stagnant recently. Also, I've been restarting my allergy therapy, and it's very, very taxing on my health. Very taxing. It's very rough on me. This is like attempt number 5 because it keeps giving me very bad reactions. So, bear with me as my flow of content might be a little less consistent than I normally like it to be. But I'm working on it. New stuff coming out. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Took me a while, but I hope it was worth it. That's how you beat the AI in Hardest. It's going to take some practice, and I hope you guys have as much fun with ResonanceBot as I do. You might catch me hosting it from time to time. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time. GG, well played.